Hey Sunshine, and welcome to the Dew Bloom podcast, where we uncover and discover who we are through creating space to reconnect with ourselves. I'm your guide Bria, an involvement and life coach for moms. The key to you living as your authentic self is to evolve and witness. Now is the time to have courage and embrace change. Your relationship with yourself is the only true constant. Observing yourself throughout seasons of your life will allow you to always be in alignment with the desires of your heart. Before we get started, I have to remind you of your influence because you are an inspiration. Heyo, and welcome back to the podcast. It's me, it's Bria. I'm here, and we're here for part 2 of the 22 lessons I learned during my 22nd year of life. So yes, if you haven't listened to part 1, you should go and check that out. But even if you haven't, stick around and listen because in this part, we're going to break down the other half, the next 11 lessons I learned during 2021. It's crazy to say, but a few updates. It's probably been about 3 or 4 days in between me filming part 1 and part 2, but we're here on my iPad. I'm recording on my iPad right now. A little bit more informal. Informal is the word. But I've been feeling so much pressure lately. Pressure on myself to be in a place where I'm not. And I'm not there, so I can't operate as my future self when right now I am my present self, and the only thing I can be is my most authentic version of myself right here in this place. So, said all that to say that I'm gonna be a little bit more gracious on myself and not force myself to film videos like this during 2022, and I almost want to set a challenge with you all during this new year that I will podcast every single day of the year. And when I say podcast, there's no emphasis on video podcasting, Bria. There is no emphasis on audio only. There is no emphasis on meditations or guided exercises. It's just the fact that me and you are showing up for the next 365 days together. So I'm excited to do this with you. January 1st is on, it's on tomorrow because my plan is to post this video, this episode on the 31st, and so the 1st will mark day 1 of this challenge that I'm doing with you all, with myself. I'm excited. This just came to me right now, and I'm not even questioning it. I'm not even questioning the fact that I'm like not even in the whole frame. Like, we're just here, we're living, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But let's hop into part 2 so I can stay a little bit focused while we're filming today. I can be all over the place sometimes, but we got my handy dandy notebook, piece of paper with my 23 things. So we're gonna hop in at number 12. Your perspective on your situation directly influences your actions. This kind of speaks to what I just talked about earlier, and my perspective on my situation with podcasting is hard, and showing up on videos a lot, and energetically sometimes I can't do that, and sometimes it would feel most authentic for me to just record audio, and I'm giving myself permission to do that. And when I put pressure on myself to do things in one way consistently, it doesn't feel good, and then I avoid doing the thing that I want to do. Then it's influencing my actions. But that's just a quick example of what this lesson taught me. But over the course of the year, this has shown up constantly. And I think it's going to show up constantly because I always question myself, and I'm always asking myself, Bria, how does it feel? Because I think my perspective is directly influenced by how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling shitty, I'm gonna feel one way about my life. If I'm feeling hormonal and going through the motions, um, I paused there because I didn't know if I wanted to share or not about some things that I learned about myself, but I'm gonna save that for another episode because I don't want to get on a bit of tangent. But I learned some things about my health and my hormone levels recently that I'm going to share about in an upcoming episode soon because we're doing the challenge. But there are so many things that could be going on in my body, in my heart, and in my mind that will shift the way that I think about my life, shift the way that I think about my situations, my circumstances, and depending on how I am viewing my life, what glasses I have on at the moment, that's going to shift the way that I move in the world. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna leave that one at that because there's a lot of things that I could share and say, but we got 10 other things to go through in this episode. But if you want to stick around for that story, you should subscribe, follow, leave a review, rate the podcast. Spotify actually has ratings now, and I love Spotify. I listen to majority of everything on Spotify. That's just my favorite platform. So if you're on Spotify, go ahead and give me a 5-star review, even if you're on what's the other ones? Apple Podcasts. 5-star review. Give it to your girl. Give it to me. If you like what we're doing here, give it to me. If you don't like what we're doing here, email me. Tell me what's wrong. Don't give me a 1-star. Just email me, okay? Give me 5 stars. And if you got nothing nice to say, send it to me directly, or look at yourself in the mirror and see what's coming up for you. Moving on to number 13 before I say anything else more on that subject. Meditations don't have to look like stillness. It's the mindfulness. So number 13, mindfulness. It's the mindfulness. Meditation doesn't have to look like stillness. I struggled this year with being still in my body, and I think that's because there was so many things that I was shaking off in this season. I was shedding a layer of skin, and if we're thinking about transformation in the way that a snake sheds their skin, they don't shed their skin by being still. And so you literally have to, swiggle out of it. And I had so much trouble with being still this year because it just wasn't in the cards for me. It just wasn't. It really boiled down to, Bria, just be in your body. Move and be in your body and embody the life you want to be through moving your body. And so I danced a lot, and I gave my permission to move during meditations that I did, whether it was a stretch or rubbing my face, whatever movement I felt like I needed to do, I did it. And I also started doing breath work this year, and I also learned some TRE, trauma release exercises. And so I did some tremoring, which I learned all of this from my spiritual life coach, Katie J. She's also a manifestation coach. Been working with her since end of 2020. But yes, learned a lot about being in my body and giving myself permission to respond to my body. And that's why I always say it's safe to trust myself. Like, it's safe to trust myself because living in this body and being Bria, I'm the only one who can advocate for this body. So I'm going to advocate for this body. And if this body is hungry, I have a responsibility to feed my body, to nourish my temple. And so, yes, in the realms of meditation, I have a responsibility to make sure that I feel good and comfortable in my body. I don't have to feel uncomfortable. I get to choose to feel good. And if that means taking a lap, using the bathroom when I need to instead of holding it, like, it's little things like that. But in the sense of meditation, it's really just allowing myself to move. And We can talk about mindful eating and mindfulness and um, what is the word that I use? I've used this term before, but it's just not coming to me. But we can talk about that in another episode this year because we're doing a 365-day challenge of podcasting. And I'm saying that because we're doing this, and I want you to stick around for the journey if this is something you want to embark on with me. But I have so much to share, and I've been holding it in and holding it back because I was like, podcasting schedule this, it has to be a video that, and I just want to give myself permission to do what feels good in my body, and I just want to overflow and ooze with all the goodness and glorious things that are within me that I've been holding on to. So moving on to number 14. Deep connection to community allows me to be deeply connected to myself. Ooh, I'm gonna read that one again. Deep connection to community allows me to be deeply connected to myself. This year I went on a retreat, and I not only was a participant in this retreat, but I also cooked for this retreat. I helped facilitate this retreat, and I held space for the women at this retreat. And again, I was working with my spiritual life coach and manifestation coach, Katie J. at Will Manifester. And during this retreat, if you listen to part 1, you know that when I went on this retreat, I was like, I had zero intentions of doing it again. Zero intentions again. And then I had the experience of being there and being deeply in community with people in a way that I've never been before. I was the youngest person at this retreat, and I have never been in a space where vulnerability was encouraged. And being open and honest about the pains and the hardships and all the things that go on in my body that I don't talk about, in my mind and in my heart and in my soul that I don't talk about, it was encouraged to dive there. Not only as an individual, but within the realms of the women and all the people who were at this retreat. There weren't many of us. I feel like there were 7 of us total. But being deeply connected to these women allowed me to be deeply connected with myself. I was able to see myself in the way that I want to treat myself through them. The compassion and grace that they gave me is the same compassion and grace I want to give to myself. And so being in community with these women and seeing them love me through the things that I thought nobody would love me through, and I don't mean like sharing all of my traumas, but it was just like, Bria, we see you're holding up a wall, and you don't have to hold this wall up anymore if you don't want to. And I was just like, y'all see the wall? For 22 years at the time, nobody's ever told me they seen the wall. And it's like, no, we see you, Bria. You don't have to be rigid. You don't have to do these things. And it's just like, they were so compassionate, but they were like, you can't, do this all at once. Like, you have to give yourself some time, and like, we're here for you. And these are women that are still here for me in my life. And although it's hard for me it's easy because we were in a place where we were all together in this home, in this space, having meals together, going on adventures and experiencing things together. And now that we're apart, it's different because proximity, I feel like, matters in relationships. And I didn't think it mattered that much, but I think being close to my community really matters to me. And because it allows me to see myself in them, in the good and in the not so good and the undesirable, where it's like, I never thought that I would be able to say those things to somebody, but I'm glad that I've created the space for me to, if I didn't speak up in that place, to hold space for myself and journal about it. But yeah, I think you need to be a part of a community because it literally takes a village to raise a person, to be human. And it's just like, who do you want to be a part of your village? And I'm so grateful for the women that I met during this retreat, because I'm glad to have them to be a part of my village. I'm glad that I can call on them and be like, hey, you guys, XYZ is going on. Send thoughts, prayers, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And they would. It's I'm so grateful for it. Again, I never thought that I would have this type of relationship or connection with women in this way. I used to think that I could do things all by myself. I didn't need anybody, and that was all like bullshit. But it's not bullshit, y'all. Not bullshit. We need connection, and our connections deepen our connection with ourselves when we're able to lean on people. Moving on to number 15, the 15th lesson I learned over this year. And again, these are in no particular order. When I wrote this, I was just, whatever came to my thought, I wrote down 22 things. So number 15, serendipity is real. I think constant surprises are all around us. And I just think about how I booked my first client. I booked my first client in 2021. In 2021, I booked my first client. And I also manifested a coaching experiences, meeting both of my coaches. I have a business coach, DL Sharon, and then my life coach and spiritual mentor / manifestation coach, Katie J. I got to meet them both at the retreat. I didn't know DL was going to the retreat, but she came to the retreat, and I manifested that. But it's also a bit of just like chance too. And I want to just share, like, I want to Google what serendipity is to give people a little bit perspective if you don't know what the word means. But I'm going to Google it. There's also a song called Serendipity that I love. And I can share that in the show notes if you're interested, because we know Bria loves music and has a song for just about every situation. It's showing me that movie. But serendipity is an unplanned, fortunate discovery. So again, constant surprises, unexpected things. I couldn't have planned for them to go to this retreat or have been asked to go to this retreat. And I'm constantly manifesting things that I'm not actively or consciously manifesting, and I'm grateful that I know how to do this. Because when I intentionally try to manifest things, it's hard because I have to work on my belief around it and believing that I can receive it. But I feel like the things that I want to happen that happen without me even consciously being aware of it is like serendipitous. And so like serendipity is real. If you really want something to happen and you believe it's going to happen, some people call this manifestation, but it's just something good happening to you that, like it said, an unplanned fortunate discovery. That's what it says. That's what it is. That's what it says. It says that serendipitous is an accidental being in the right place at the right time. And I feel like that's what 2021 was for me. Like if 2020 didn't happen and I didn't drop out of school and I didn't move back home, I don't think I would have been here in this apartment that I'm living with my sister. I don't think I would have been here. And I'm grateful for all the serendipitous things that happened that I couldn't have planned that brought me here. Serendipity is real. And I believe that I'll meet my partner in a very serendipitous way. And I'm going to stumble on like all the little tiny homes and the people who are going to build the property and stuff for me. It's going to happen all serendipitously. Magically. I definitely believe in magic. But it's just like things can happen without us being so forceful and determined for it to happen. Where it's just like, no, I believe it's going to happen. That felt kind of snooty, but I honestly believe it's going to happen. So, next, moving on to the next lesson I learned. Make the best choice for you now and cross all other bridges when you get there. I love telling myself this. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, because all I can do is make decisions for the present moment. And I think coming out of the pandemic, I learned that I'm like, I can't be planning 3 years from, I don't know when this shit gonna be over. Like, what? And so I had to like be very in the present about the choices that I make and not make decisions for my future self when I'm not my future self, which I started this episode off by saying. I have to just be like, okay, Bria, what would feel supportive right now? What feels good? A or B? B, we're going this way. Instead of making it complicated and making it hard when things are really simple. We all have choice. And when my brain tries to go into all these hypotheticals, I'm like, we'll cross that bridge if and when we get there. And I love saying if and when, because this shit might not even happen, Bria. This all could be just some irrational hypothetical scenario you're making in your head. And if it's not, and if it does actually happen, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I'm always talking to myself and telling myself, you're good, calm down. I am a very anxious person, if you didn't know. But yes, that's something I love telling myself throughout this year, because I didn't know what was going to happen. At the beginning of this year, I was full-time in my business, and I was doing my best to make money and just put myself out there and build my community. And now I'm working 5 days out of the week and doing my business. Did I know I was going to be a side hustler? And I'm putting air quotes around that for the people listening on the podcast. But it's just like, I didn't know. And it's just like, I crossed the bridges when I got here. What does this look like? How does this lifestyle look like for me? And so right now I'm still figuring that stuff out, and I'll talk about it here soon in the upcoming episodes. But let's move on to number 17. The lesson I learned was this: you don't have to understand your art, you just have to create it. I needed this reminder today because I was feeling very anxious about where I'm going and what I'm doing in my life. And it's like, I don't have to understand the purpose of the work or the reason why I'm here. I just have to be here. I just have to create the things I feel compelled to create, because like, I've been thinking about this thought a lot about like, the trees are here and they don't give a shit. They're just being trees, and like, they might not understand the reason why they're being cut down and why all this shit is happening to them, or why the seasons come and the seasons change and they lose leaves and then the leaves come back. Like, they are not trying to understand this shit. They are not. They're not trying to understand it. They're just being fucking trees. And I try to apply that to myself as well and be like, Bria, just be Bria. Stop trying to, we could talk about these existential crises I be having. I be going deep. I be way, way, way in Saturn's and Pluto with my hypothetical situations. And it's just like, Bria, just be here, be present, be the tree. And I think I might have mentioned that in the last episode, part 1 of this 2-part little lessons I learned in 2021. Like, just be a tree. Just be grounded, be present, be fruitful, provide shade, just be who you are. It's that simple. Life can literally be that simple. And I have to remind myself of that, because I can get caught up in the hype and being overstimulated by the media and knowing too much shit about what's going on in the world. And I'm just like, the trees don't even fucking know what's going on. Be a tree. Be a tree. Be so unbothered. Be a tree. Be a tree. And that's why a tree is my logo. Period. If you were wondering. Because I want to be a tree so bad. I want to embody the tree. But that's for another episode. Moving on. Lesson number 18. No one is harassing. Wait, what? No one is harassing you like you, so be gentle. I'm a bully to myself. I will be the first person to say it. No one is harder on me than me. I go through periods of time in the month, specifically when I'm premenstrual, where my mental health is at its absolute worst. And that is when I go into hibernation, because I need to take care of this bitch up here. I'm so self-critical during that time that I just need to be kind to myself. And so I used to have this thought that like these were like legitimate things that I was telling to myself. And I am someone who's living with PMDD. This is the thing that I learned that I was going to share about in another episode, but it applies here about like it's not me who's bullying me. It's like nobody else is bullying me. Like I'm the one who's hurting me. And so I have to be kind to myself. I can't neglect myself. And I have to be present for myself, because if I'm not present for myself, it's really easy for the bully to take over and be driving the car. When it's like, whoa, this is my body. I run the show. I call the shots. Who are you? Get in the back seat. And so it's like being very present with myself when I'm going through these times. And that's why I'm so big on intentionality, because I need to be intentional about how I talk to myself during this time and how I show up for myself in my physical space and my environment as I'm living life, meal prepping. How can I make it easier for me so I don't bully myself, so I don't shame myself, and not in a place of like, I'm doing this to like appease my bully brain or bully Bria, but I'm doing this in a way where it's like the bully in me is my scared inner child, period. It's baby Bria throwing a tantrum, throwing a fit, and it's just like, where can I console baby Bria and hold space for my inner child? That's what I'm doing. And that's why I'm just like, be proactive. How can we tell her, girl, we good? There's food in the fridge. When you get hungry, let me know and I'll go heat something up for you. You don't got to say nothing mean. Just let me know. I really think of my inner critic, my bully self, as these two things. It's either baby Bria throwing a tantrum, and these are all past versions of myself. Baby Bria is my inner child. That's who I call her. And then like my preteen self, my teenage self, who was sassy and be like, who just didn't care, thought she knew everything. It's those two people who be coming out. And they both desperately want attention. They feel neglected. And so it's just like, just let me know what you need. And if I'm always constantly checking in with them, there's no need for them to feel neglected. There's no need for them to be so mean to me. That's the way that I think about my mind and my inner child and all that stuff. But that's part integration. It is part integration, but I call it self-integration. It's part work. Basically, there's different parts of yourself, and I call it self-integration because I talk about the different versions of you, but we'll talk about that in another episode because like I said, I've been holding on to my shit and I need to let it go. So subscribe. And I'm saying that because there's so much coming. There's so much to share. 365 episodes to be exact. Again, moving on to number 19. Self-talk over journaling. Period. Self-talk over journaling. Sometimes you need to talk this shit out with yourself. And personally, my mind moves too fucking fast for me to write. Like, I'm already on the third sentence and I barely wrote down the first one. So journaling sometimes doesn't work for me. So I have to open up an audio, like a voice memo, record myself, let myself spill it all out, sit with the release of it all, and then go back and listen to the audio message. And that's the way that I prefer to hold space for myself rather than journaling, because I would say that I'm a speaker. Yeah, I love talking. A girl could talk. That's why we're here on the podcast. But I think it's so important to hear your own voice so you can identify it in your own mind. Because, like, I talked about this in a previous episode, the terms of our agreement. How we agree into things that probably aren't for us. But it's just like, if you don't hear yourself saying the shit that you don't agree with, and you're like, what the fuck, I said that? Like, your mind is able to hear yourself and be like, whoa, who is she? And what do we do with the real me? And like, it gives you yourself a moment to like actually pause and reflect and be like, okay, that's not something I want to say, or that's not something I want to hear. And that also goes back to like you being hard and overcritical of yourself. And I'm talking about me in the reference to the last lesson. It's just like when you hear yourself being so hard and be like, girl, you've done so good, girl. And so like you can almost hear the different parts of yourself coming up when you're doing that. But that's all a skill that you can work on and hone in on. But yeah, I love this one. I'm self-talk over journaling, period. Number 19, that was a good one. Okay, we got 3 more, and then we will wrap up this episode and start the challenge, the 365-day challenge. So number 20, how you feel is all that matters. It's safe to trust your gut. And I've said this on this podcast. I said it on this podcast episode. How you feel is all that matters. If you don't like the way you're feeling, you got the power to change it. You got the power to change it. Trust your gut. As long as you're not hurting yourself, hurting others, or hurting the world, change it. Change it. And just do it in a constructive way. But that's why I'm saying it's safe to trust yourself. If it's like, oh, don't wear pink today, wear blue. Like, don't wear the earrings today. You know, they feel a little heavy on our ears, and we're just going to end up taking them off, and then we're going to be worried about if they're going to get messed up or lost. It's just like, it's safe to trust yourself. If you're feeling anxious, do the thing that is supportive instead of the thing that's causing you anxiety. And I know I'm saying this in a way where it's like, it's simple, and it's because it is. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It's simple because, like, I trust myself to choose what's best for me. I literally do. It's not this whole big contemplation. Well, what? Like I said before, we'll cross those bridges if and when we get there. If and when we get there. But right now, we're here, and how we feel is all that matters. So choose what's good for you in this present moment. I think that's where people get all confused when they're trying to make decisions out of shit that's not even relevant to what's going on right now. But I love that one. That's a good one. 21st lesson. We're so close to being done. You don't have to do it all alone if you don't want to. There are people willing to help and support you. Like me. I literally wrote that, like me. There are people here willing to support and help you. And I think it's really important to say the first part of this again. You don't have to do it alone if you don't want to. Because I think there's a lot of things where like, oh, I can't do it alone. I told y'all that was me. I used to think I didn't need people. It was me. I was ready to remove myself from my family and go out and do this thing by myself and find new people I could lean on. Find new people who I thought were more dependable than my family. But it's just like, I don't have to do this alone. If someone is willing and able to help me, and I weighed my options and was like, okay, I'll do it. Whether this is my family or my new community or with the retreat, it's just like, I don't have to do it alone. And I think it takes a bit of vulnerability to actually open yourself up to receiving help and support when that might not be something that you're used to, but also allowing yourself to experience yourself in a new way. Just because you may have feel neglected or abandoned or not worthy of help and support in the past, maybe in this season, you can choose that you are. Yes, and that's always an option. I am gearing up to open my one-on-one coaching program open it for enrollment. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, you should definitely follow me on Instagram at DulisBoom to get more details. Yeah. Okay. Final lesson I learned in 2021. Chase all your dreams simultaneously and you'll be surprised how quickly shit comes together. You can have it all. Share your interests and find your community quickly. That was a long one. But essentially, it's just go after what you want. Put yourself in the places you want to be in. Immerse yourself in the places you want to be. Allow yourself to be the person who you want to be right now. I know I said a lot of words, but it boils down to that last one. Allow yourself to be the person you want to be. Because she's already here. And I say that passionately because I'm telling myself that, 1. And 2, I'm reminding you, She's already here. She's already here. All your dreams are already here. They may not have manifested in the way that you're thinking about them in the grandiose ways, but the seed, the person who's going to carry you through that, the body who's going to carry you through the journey and the process of achieving and experiencing your dream is already here. So allow yourself to be and feel all the feels on the journey. Do it. And I'm in this place right now. I'm reminding myself and chasing all of your dreams simultaneously. Like when I dropped out of school, I started working because I needed money. I just got my license. Like if I just shared my 2021 vision board with you, you can see how many different aspects of my life were on that vision board. There had things to do financially, personally, with like me getting my license and me getting my car. I got my license. I might not have gotten my car this year, but I'm taking steps on the path to get there. Okay, the license is here. It's not like, oh, Bria, you've been talking about getting a car, but you only have your permit. Like, no, she got her license. She's ready. I have car insurance. Like, don't play me. Got a little aggressive there for a second. But it's like there's so many things, and you just being here on the journey, on the path, you're already on course to achieving your dreams. So chase it. Keep running. Keep running on the path towards your dream. And it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a water break, a bathroom break. Like your life is a marathon, not a sprint. I said a lot. A lot in this episode. And in this little 2-part series about me sharing the lessons that I learned over the course of this year. So I want to give you some time to think about all the things that came up and also give you some time to think about the lessons you've learned during 2021. So the next 3 minutes are for you to reflect, to think about what's going on in your life. What lessons do you want to carry into 2022? How do you want to pivot? How do you want to move? What do you want to keep doing this year? What do you want to remind yourself? And I just created I just shared something on my website about how to write a manifesto, which is all about creating your intention for the year, finding your theme and setting the tone. So if that's something you're interested in, I will leave the link to that blog post in the description because, y'all, setting the tone and calling in what you want to experience this year is so important. And maybe I'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode about manifestos, setting intention, and why it's important for the annual big, like the whole 365 days. But yeah, that's for another episode. I'm going to give you the next 3 minutes, and I can't wait to see y'all tomorrow, like literally tomorrow, because we're doing this challenge. So yeah, I can't wait to see you there, and I love y'all, and happy reflecting. If anything resonated with you during this episode, pass it along to a friend. Let's continue the chain reaction of inspiration. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can stay updated with all things Stillness Bloom by joining the Village Community email list. The link is in the description below. I hope that today is everything you needed to be and more, and remember, you are an inspiration.